Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I was in the middle of a number of interviews regarding the Israeli military assault on Rafah, something that uh, the Israeli government, Netanyahu, have been speaking about, trying to insist on attacking Rafah with 1.4 million Palestinians who have been pushed into that area right now. Uh, One of the highest concentration of populations possibly in the world. And earlier today, President Biden had a conversation with Netanyahu. Uh, in the conversation really boils down to that the Biden just gave some comments about respecting international law, also not commencing with a major operation without finding a way out or a place to move the Palestinian civilian population. And also, we hit that over 45 minutes were spent on the hostages. Lastly, Biden also spoke to Netanyahu, giving him 45 days. So we are already about 123 days and ongoing, 45 days. The Israeli government said that they want to try to finish this operation by the beginning of Ramadan. So for those who are following, Ramadan begins on either March 10th or 11th, depending on whether people cite it or calculate it. But in general, we are talking about that the U.S. is still giving Netanyahu all the space and the time he needs to continue to press this assault on Gaza civilian population. Also, we get the news from the Israeli side that two hostages have been rescued in an operation also in the area of Rafah, which, in my view, is going to be utilized by Netanyahu, by his war cabinet, as well as by the right-wing side of the Israeli government, to even be far more bellicose, far more destructive, and far more use of violence, in essence, to say, here's the evidence. The remaining hostages most likely are in Rafah, and what we need is to press on to free the hostages. And Netanyahu is also saying that he wants to seek the destruction of Hamas, with the understanding there are 4 battalions remaining in there. So, taking one question at a time. One, where the civilian population will go at this time? So, should they go to the area around Khan Yunis, where the reports says there is intensive fighting in Khan Yunis? So, should they go back to the north, an area that has been completely decimated? There is no hospitals that are operational, or those who are or remain basically are a very limited type of medical facilities and services. 70% of the homes are destroyed. The infrastructure is completely destroyed. So should they be actually going? Should they go to the Israeli side of the border to be funneled out in that area? That also raises many questions in relations to Israel. And lastly, in terms of the Egyptian, which has been an item on the agenda since the beginning of war, if not even before, that to actually have Egypt being the location, knowing that actually even before this October attack and the past period, that Egypt actually has built some facilities on supposedly to expand when the Abrahamic Accords were subject to these discussions, to actually take some of the Palestinians even before the October 7th. So is the Egyptian option still on the table? Now, yesterday, the Egyptian government still said that they will not accept to take Palestinians in, that they sent close to 40 tanks and armored carriers into the Gaza border. And they also are, or at least issued a statement to the sense that they would it would jeopardize the Camp David agreement, which is the bilateral peace agreement between Israel and Egypt that was signed in 1978. So they say that the Camp David agreement will be at a critical position or critical juncture at this point. Just in the past few hours, I just was communicating with people right on Rafah, and literally they are hearing the Israeli tanks in close proximity to them. And also last night was one of the most violent periods of bombing and destruction. Over 100 Palestinian civilians martyred yesterday, and also snipers that actually are almost every rooftop in the area have been taken over by Israeli snipers that are actually literally shooting at civilian population, some that are close to the hospital, even some in the hospitals being shot. So we're actually facing a major dire conditions and situation facing Rafah, with no way out for the Palestinians and the international community. Again, not to make us at this point both laugh out of crying at the conditions. This is what they say is that which is so traumatic and sad that makes you laugh at what is taking place. The international community has been aiding and abetting Israel, and we're speaking about in here the Western world, first and foremost, the United States, Germany, England, France, Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, all these, Canada as well, all have been aiding and abetting. Now, don't let this notion that Biden and others are saying we urge on Israel to allow humanitarian aid. What is needed is an immediate ceasefire. What is needed is actually stopping sending weapons to Israel. What is needed is actually to put Israel on a complete accountability to violation of international law. What is needed is actually to not to obfuscate and to speak of the need of Israel to defend itself, which is an open license for Israel to actually attack, kill, and maim Palestinian civilian population. Palestinians are under occupation. Palestinians are the responsibility of the international communities. The Palestinians are under the preview of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which is all the signatories to the Fourth Geneva Convention is their responsibility to not only bring the force of the Fourth Geneva Convention, but also the Genocide Convention as well. So Biden's statements is obfuscatory in nature, dilatory in nature, is still giving the diplomatic military cover for Netanyahu, despite the murmuring here and there that we hear that there is a difference of opinion. If there is really a serious difference of opinion between the United States and Netanyahu, then let's see it. Where is the difference of opinion that you are talking about? Where is the stopping of military aid? Where is the assistance on surveillance in the all of the intelligence that is provided to Netanyahu? Where is all of this that is taking place as we speak? So if the United States is serious about its commitment and upholding international law, then let's see the immediate results in there. I know that Biden last week have sanctioned four settlers, and we'll say four settlers, that's it, while the settlers have been having a free hand in the West Bank, have been attacking villages, have been burning cars, have been cutting trees, stealing livestock. For settlers, I have a number of possibilities for you, Biden, if you're interested in some ideas. How about actually sanctioning all of the settlers and the settlements because they're illegal per for Geneva Convention, and the U.S. is a signatory to it. Uh, how about actually putting in an executive order to prohibit the importation of any of the products from the settlements and not allowing them to enter the U.S. market, and for those that enter to be confiscated. How about actually also removing all the settlements from the SWIFT, which is the financial transaction system that is there, which treats the settlements as an extension of the Israeli economy, despite the fact that they are illegal. So why don't actually those to be removed? Also, why don't we ask U.S. companies that continue to actually deal and have relationship with the settlements and the settlers that they are actually violating international law? So, for example, PayPal facilitate payment system in those areas. Airbnb allows settlers to list their homes for rentals and to be used for rental places. So would that also a possibility for us to think about the U.S. government being serious other than giving lip service? The additional element, also the Biden administration and its campaign have been trying to have overture toward the Arab, Palestinian, Muslim community and the pro and those who are standing for Palestinian justice in the United States. These overtures are basically PR at this point, because as long as continued support militarily, politically, economically, and also providing Netanyahu as much cover as he wants, any overture toward the Arab, Palestinian, Muslims, and the justice movement in the United States for election purposes to get Biden elected in 2024 is dead on arrival. We are no longer accepting this empty rhetoric, empty promises, empty discourse that is coming from the White House, and no respectable Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, or justice-based person will allow the Biden administration, on the one hand, to send these massive weapons to Israel to provide all cover, while on the other hand, try to actually hold these listening sessions with the community. The only word that we would listen to is immediate unconditional ceasefire. The things that we would listen to and hear is cutting U.S. aid to Israel. The thing that we need to do is the enforceability of international law and bringing them to full accountability. Everything else becomes almost mute. And actually, I was very delighted and not delighted, but happy to hear that our Black brothers in Georgia, the religious leadership, the Black leadership in Georgia, ministers and so on, actually have called on Biden to call for ceasefire and to actually be a person that will be on the side of justice. And we know how critical the Black vote in Georgia, which delivered Georgia to Biden, with also large Muslim turnout in Georgia. So it's actually very important and significant to see the Black church leadership in Georgia coming out with unequivocal statement and demanding on the U.S. president to reflect actually the highest values that we see if we are preaching, preaching the Bible and preaching the gospel, which is in essence to call for peace and ceasefire. So this is actually going on simultaneously. On the one hand, the administration think that they could reach to the Arab Muslim Palestinian community without actually making any substantial or substantive policy changes. They continue to hug and cajole Netanyahu and his extreme right-wing government, Ben Gvir, who wants to create settlements in the West Bank, Smotrich, and the rest of them, while on the other hand creating public relations. I said last week during one of my talks, I said every time that Israel bombs a hospital in Gaza, Biden is losing votes in Michigan. Every time that Netanyahu is bombing a school in Gaza, Biden is losing votes in Georgia. Every time that he continues to sell and send more weapons and supplies to Netanyahu, he's losing votes in Minnesota, and he's losing much of the Democratic base. The last element I want to also to make people understand is that the United States as a population, 61% of the population are calling for ceasefire. And it's even much larger within the Democratic base. In some segments of the Democratic base, it actually goes as high as in the 80th percentile. So 61% of the population wants ceasefire. So Biden is out of step with the American public. Kamala Harris is out of step with the American public. Nancy Pelosi is out of step with the American public. The Republican and the Democrat in the House and the Senate, which have allocated and they want to send more weapons to Israel, are out of step with the American society. So in this sense, what we need is to press and continue to press for immediate unconditional ceasefire to take place, but also to call for an end to U.S. aid to Israel immediately, and put that on our agenda. And for those like us who are engaging in boycott, divestment, and sanction, it's actually make even further commitment for the boycott, divestment, and sanction. And in particular, as Netanyahu is giving himself till Ramadan to continue to assault Palestinian and civilians in Gaza, let's tell everyone who is actually watching and preparing for Ramadan in the United States, let's make sure that we boycott all of the dates that are coming from the Israeli settlements and the Israeli companies that are being thrown throughout the Arab Muslim Palestinian markets, and to make a commitment that we will actually have a date with justice, not with an apartheid occupation and genocide dates that are being placed and brought into the various markets and stores across. So make sure to actually go to ampalestine.org and take a look at the list of the companies, of date companies that are coming from the Israeli companies that are brought into the U.S. And again, I'd recommend for people to buy dates from California. There is a huge date industry here in California. There's some of the best dates. So literally buy American and buy California dates, and don't actually break your fast on dates brought to you by apartheid, dates that are brought to you from occupation, dates that are brought to you from lands that have been stolen, taken by settlements and settlers. So this is, for me, is just the next few days are going to be very critical. We do need to double our effort, continue to actually demand resolutions of ceasefire at the local level, on your city councils, in your education board of education, school board of educations, county resolutions. Also demand statewide resolutions. And also continue to find opportunities to participate in the many efforts and activism that are taking place. So individuals who are protesting continue to do protests. This is very good and much needed at this time. I know that many organizations sent out petition, AMP, CARE, Jewish Voice for Peace, if not now, Code Pink, and a whole host, also SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine. All these groups are putting action alerts, respond to them. And if you could actually go and support students who are having events and activities on campus, I know the students in Stanford have been having an ongoing sit-in that's been almost for 100 plus days. So make sure that you actually go out and support them. I know that students in Harvard have been doing tremendous work, and MLFA, Muslim Legal Fund of America, have taken and filed a case on their behalf for civil rights violation, and the Department of Education has opened an investigation on their behalf. I know the students in Columbia University have been facing and continue to face some of the most atrocious type of attacks on themselves, also attacks with what it would be an assault on them by skunk water that were thrown at them and during their protests, and the university have dragged its feet in that way. So make sure to do that. Somebody is mentioning Brown University. For sure, Brown University, the hunger strike in there, for sure. I think it's been the 10th day of the hunger strike. This is actually in the tradition of whether you go to the tradition of the hunger or the fasting strikes during the Gandhi period, but also during the civil rights movement. Cesar Chavez did hunger strike. So this is actually also very important. And I know there are so many different activities taking place. Make sure to support the students and go out. And I know my dear colleague Dabil Muntasser from New York brought to my attention to pressure your local unions. For sure, the unions are a very important part. In here in California, the union actually have been very important, especially the dock workers in Oakland, which have linked up with the activists from AROC and PYM, the Palestine Youth Movement, and actually prevented the ships from loading weapons and docking in there. So unions are very important, whether faculty union, staff unions at universities, various unions in various sectors. The health care communities have been also mobilizing and active in this area. So this is not the time to say I'm tired. I know we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's for sure. But this is not the time to actually dial down our work. This is the time actually to continue to work. And again, my grandson, Attorney Walter Riley, great to see you in here. Long time activist and organizer. So literally, by all means, make sure they actually to come out. We need to pressure the DA to drop the charges on the Bay Bridge 778 and not allow this harassment and the use of the legal offices of the city to literally to go after activists and organizers in this way. So there are many different ways for us to be active. In essence, the fact that what is taking place in Gaza has allowed us to literally mobilize like never before. So it's very important for us to take this opportunity and to double and triple our effort, but also make possible for us to rethink of how to connect the various causes, whether it's on the area of Black Lives Matter, to think about the immigration debates that are taking place on the southern border and how to make linkages to there, to make linkages into the coalition of homelessness. If we're sending we're calling for $17 billion aid to Israel right now, on top of other allotment that have went over the past 3 months, while we have our cities with unhoused people, with our uh, both our political leadership and our police service are directed at going after and targeting human beings rather than actually looking at the conditions. I remember that we used to have a war on poverty, which meaning that we try to address that poverty is the problem. Now we have shifted to having a war on the poor, and one can take a look at the poor in both in the local level but also in the transnational level. We should not make fail to make these connections, especially when we think about the Palestinians being refugees who are in Gaza, meaning that they, in terms of where they are socio-politically, these would be individuals that would be far more reflective of the those who are really dispossessed, both marginalized in our own societies. And we need to make those linkages, because the funding of to war is almost, you have an open-ended pocket, deep pocket. Any war, we continue to have and find the resources to fund war without an end. And this is where our own military budget is 886 billion, while our own cities and people that are in the streets, whether be it in unhoused homeless people or all those that have been literally been set on the margins of society with the opioid addictions and so on. So we need to make these linkages, because of the I do believe that Martin Luther King three evils of society are still what we're dealing with today. Today is Palestine, but we're still dealing with militarism, materialism, and racism. And we should always try to emphasize and make these linkages. There is a Gaza in every street and every city that we are in, and we need to actually recognize those in order to uplift and ending the siege on Gaza, ceasefire, allowing people to have their dignity, freedom, and liberty is so fundamental, that is also connected to how we see our society today. So literally, I want to just to share my perspective that I think in the next few days, the Israeli military is going to unleash a massive attack on Rafah. And there is no restraint that is being offered. Biden's I would say mild statements are basically just giving a political cover to Netanyahu, and there is no consequences attached to what the possibility of these next few years. We're talking about 1.4 million. Already, we have close to 30,000 dead. And for every person dead, you're talking about 3 or 4 that have been injured, maimed, made handicapped, and their life conditions are been transformed. So we're dealing literally close to 100,000 between dead and injured in Gaza, with 70% in some areas of all the homes have been destroyed. So Biden, you are complicit in genocide. The U.S. media is complicit in genocide, and the Israeli government, leadership, military are right now on the plausibility of genocide according to the International Court of Justice. And yesterday, Nicaragua has actually joined the International Court of Justice case that has been set forth by South Africa. So this is on the other side in terms of what is taking place. So thank you for being with me on this just interlude, just as a almost commentary on unfolding news and unfolding development with the bombardment on Rafah. And we just need to be on constant alert in the hours, days ahead, and continue to pressure, call, and find any way possible to try to bring an immediate ceasefire to the unfolding genocide in Gaza today. So, Assalamu alaikum, and I'll see you again in another conversation.